Okay, letter number 10. Now, I'm not very clear about this. As I've mentioned before, usually my current approach is not to look at the case notes and to take the letter as read, line by line, as the, real life reader would. And if it makes sense, then good. However, the only case notes I have for this particular person are by that, what's his name, Ahmed somebody on the internet, and I don't know if they're the case notes that you've used. I would only use official materials because a lot of the case notes on the internet are basically crap. They just make them up, or they copy them from some official source and they change them, and it's not written in a way that OET would write them. And there's a reason why using official materials is always best. So I looked at the case notes, ones that I could find, and it's not very clear as to whether the GP actually knows about this patient or not. Is she a regular patient? Have they spoken before? And what information the GP might actually know. I mean, I have a GP. It's a clinic, but they know nothing about me except what's on their files in terms of medical information. So if that's the same case here, some of the information that you've listed doesn't really make a lot of sense. So let's just see it line by line. Now, one further thing. It's only 183 words, which is a little bit low. The reason why they say 180 as a minimum absolute bare, anything less than that is not going to contain all the information that you might need. And again, this is why using inappropriate material can be a problem, because it doesn't contain enough for you to use. So, writing to inform you regarding. So, you probably wouldn't do that anyway. You would say, I'm writing to maybe update you on the condition of. Inform you what? Inform you of what? Regarding what? That's not very good. So I would do something like, let me make some changes in here. I would do something like, I'm writing to, if it's to update you on the condition of. That, I think that would do. So it's specific now. You're updating me on her condition. Now, who cancelled? Now, this is one of those things, it's kind of like a hanging, dangling participle. We're not really sure who cancelled it. So, who is being discharged today after cancelling? What, she cancelled her own operation? In a sense, she did, because she smoked before admission. So she kind of did, but in, what we're talking about here, she didn't actually cancel it. It was cancelled for her, or her operation was cancelled because she was smoking. So we need to be a little careful there. Who did the cancelling? Who performed the operation? Being discharged today after her coronary artery bypass operation was cancelled due to her pre-admission smoking, or her smoking pre-admission. You can do it like that. Now, that's a very short sentence. She requires your follow-up care for what? And I would make it part of a sentence. So, now, I usually put the name at first and then use pronouns, Prestially, if that's a name. Make sure that's a capital. Hang on a second. So, on admission, Mr. Priestley's blood pressure was, and make that a genitive case, possessive, Priestley's blood pressure was 90. Beta blocker doses were increased, then the blood pressure. So, right, now this should be a single sentence. I don't know why we have two. On admission, Mrs. Priestley's blood pressure was 180 over 100, for which beta blocker doses were increased and her pressure decreased. So I have a 180 over 100, which was decreased to 140/80 following beta blocker dose increases, or something such as that. So you can put it into a single sentence. We don't really need the two sentences, which dose were increased. So, and this blood pressure, you don't need to say it twice. Blood pressure, Mrs. Priestley blood increased, which reduced it to 180, which was increased. And which was increased, which reduced it to 140/80. Okay. Now, psychiatric consultation, smoking stuff on the stage. Now, okay, now this is interesting here, but you don't mention it now unless a doctor already knows this and about her grandchildren's care. That doesn't tell us anything. If you had said something before, though I don't know why you would have done, because it's nothing to do with the doctor, if you'd said something about she's solely responsible for caring for her grandchildren, which is giving her some kind of anxiety or something, but simply saying including her grandchildren's care doesn't really explain anything, you know. So social financial status, and again, without explaining it, what's this got? The GP might be saying, okay, well, what's this got to do with me? You could have maybe said something about she received psychiatric consultation about smoking and various social issues or something. So the important thing is a psychiatric consultation, not specifically about a social status. And what does that even mean? Financial status? What? She is poor. She doesn't have any money. What's that got to do with the children? It's not very clear at all to the reader. And as I said, it's not very clear from this or from the case notes what the situation is. So again, that's a good reason to always use official materials. So she was diagnosed with, and then we had this kind of unconnected kind of sentence just dropped in. She was diagnosed with moderate depression. Okay. So what? So you could have put that in the previous one. During hospitalization, she was diagnosed with moderate depression and received psychiatric consultation for several issues. You could have put that in a single sentence, so that's kind of told me that. So in terms of medication, well, you don't need to, in terms of medication. OET says that if you can leave this kind of marker out, you should do. It's got to be as concise as possible. She was prescribed, etc., etc. Now, have been increased their doses. Why is that present perfect passive? Have been in. So these are nouns, but they're not people. They're not agents, so they can't increase anything. Have been increased. So the doses. So citalopram and aspirin doses have been increased by whom? Their doses have been increased. Their doses. That use of passive doesn't really make a lot of sense there. So I prescribed, or she was prescribed, lisinopril and nicotine patches. The doses of citalopram and aspirin have been increased, so that needs to change that word order. Aspirin should be stopped before readmissions. But this shows plan. Now, is she going to monitor her own blood pressure and the electrolytes? Is she supposed to be doing that? How's she going to do that? It's because you've got pres and simple here. Miss Pristili, if that's her name, how you say it, requires. So that implies that she's going to do it, is she? So, as per the discharge plan, Mrs. Piesta-Liz blood pressure and electrolytes require monitoring once per week. Right, so we'll have to change that. Depends if you mean she's going to do it or if it needs to be done for her. So I would be tempted to I think she's 70, nearly 80. So probably she's not going to do it herself. So she needs someone to do it for her. Mrs. Priestley requires her blood pressure and electrolytes. Right. Monitoring. Once per week. Okay. Readmission of or for Mrs. Priestley will be on 19th of the 10th. If she has had shots of refugees member state, she should contact us. Would she do that, or would you do it for her? Okay. I would be appreciated. Why is that? Why is it passive? I would appreciate it if you could take over her care. Further queries, please not hesitate to contact me. Okay. So as I said, it needs to be, it's possibly a little bit short, maybe because of the quality of the notes, the material, and reading it aloud, line by line. I say there's some things here that don't quite make sense. We've got a little bit of grammar. Do you mean that she's doing this? Who's doing it? Who's performing the action? So you've got to watch your verb forms. So yeah, okay. And you need to be very careful about mentioning things without explanation, because the reader would be, if they didn't know, they'd be thinking, social status? What's that got to do with grandchildren's care? Oh, what? So you need to be a little bit careful about how you do it. Okay, so I'll leave that for now. So I think this is letter 10 now. So I'll do some more in coming days, and I'll see you later.